are we fucked and this is genetic and will I be normal? And I was like, no, wait, first start, thanks. And then what we thought we'd do is, I'll move around a bit because I know that people have got holes and things in the way. Then we thought what we do is we maybe do it every so often, but it was so popular, I said, well, I'll do it every month, and when it stops, when people stop coming and it's not full, I'll stop. It just never happened, so I'm really grateful for the people that come and the questions that you ask, so thank you very much. If anyone here is in any form of psychology or counselling or anything, psychiatrist, psychologist, counsellor, therapist, get in contact with me afterwards on FetLife as the Kink Shrink, that's what my name is there, and I'll give you a free CPD certificate. And that's worth like 60 to 100 quid, so I'll just chuck them out. And the same, I run a once a month workshop on Zoom as well. If you ever want one, you're welcome to come to those. I don't charge for them. Same as, when I go to, someone just asked me if I go to university, she's like, how much are you? And I don't know, I'll come for free. Like, I really do believe in the education of what we do. So, please don't ask me to go to university. Unless it's somewhere really exotic, I'm quite interested. No, I'm kidding. So that's what I do for a living. I'm a psychologist, a psychotherapist now. I just work privately. I don't work on the NHS, but I see 2 people for free a week, and I see 2 or 3 people for reduced prices, and I run free workshops as well. I try and do my own thing of giving back. Is this my area of expertise? So what the fuck does that mean? That's an interesting question, isn't it? Anyone here ever had it before? Don't put your hand up, right? Just in your head, you know, open. If you've had some form of therapy, some form of counselling, some form of help or guidance, it's really interesting when people try and say, yes, I'm a kink active or kink aware therapist. There's no such thing. There is no such thing. And in the UK, just bear in mind that those who call ourselves certain names, there is no protection. So really find out if you do go for counselling or therapy or anything, like, who is this person I'm seeing, where have they trained? Not that I give a fuck where they trained, actually. I tend to care more about how much therapy they've had themselves. We've done a journey. Because I know some brilliant people with PhDs who are just full of shit. They're brilliant, but they're not. And I know other people that when I've done couples courses, like Steve used to teach, and he doesn't have any qualifications. He's probably one of the best couples therapists I've ever met in my life. He's just been doing it for 40 years. And you didn't need any qualifications. It's getting harder. You now have to have a degree, you have to do this, you have to do that. What I've done is I've got my normal degree, I've got my I then went on, I've got a master's, and I've done 10 2-year courses. I've got 20 years of training after that on things like trauma, couples, psychosexual, different things as well. And I've been kinky since I was 18, 17, technically, make sure I admit that, because you know.
Sorry for interruption, just trying to see what you're saying on lights.
So I've been doing this actively since I was 17. Sorry. I'm also first aid trained. Although you need a different form of first aid training for kink, which is what I always say as well. And actually, a friend of mine, Poppy and I are forever putting together. We still haven't finished it yet, but I think there are some seats over there. For I think there are 1 or 2 if you want to sit down at the back of the road. Oh, okay. Big fish, little fish, that's a bit bright, isn't it? That's a bit too spotlighty. You, what? So I've done a lot of courses as well, and Poppy and I, as I say, she's a friend, she does the same job as I do, and works for the NHS as well, but we want to write a really specific care package about medical interventions and psychological interventions for kinksters that is relevant to our sort of injuries and issues rather than somebody else's. I always say there's no such thing as consent, which makes me laugh because I run this workshop all the time. That's quite a contentious thing for me to say. I had a hip injected last week. It's really bad. I've been laying down the side of my dress and it's really shitty. And they're actually because of injuries. So when I was 20 or 21, I wouldn't have known what to do or how to. I didn't know what I was doing. It's all right there. I mean, you're divergent, you don't like being caught up on from behind. Definitely one of them. So the idea of these workshops as well is that they are a Q&A. You can ask anything related to kink, psychology, mental health, how-tos, why-tos, anything. I love epigenetics. I like the proper way of looking at all of this, whatever that means. And I teach a lot as well. So it's a Q&A. So it's over to you as to what this workshop becomes and how you do it. I would say this is going through. Everyone goes, I'm asking a fucking question. Everyone sits on their hands. And then I go to leave at the end and we've got 300 questions. However, there's a group in here and people are like, how many people have been in kink for under a year? For example, anybody under a year, been doing it for about a year? Anyone under 5 years? Anyone under 10 years doing it? 20 years? 30 years? 40 years? 42, yeah. Welcome to the old club. Yeah. For some of us.
What's my question?
It's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Have you got birthday meetings yet?
I'm giving out something.
Oh, that's actually give out. You have to take them.
No,
I don't know. It's a matter of consent. It's a matter of tradition. Maybe.
That's as good as it's going to get.
That's fine. We don't mind. I can do weird things in the dark. You can do weird things in the light sometimes, but you need to be able to see, don't you? If it's too dark or you pick something else as well, it's not always the best idea. So, questions and answers, over to you. And as I say, people go, no, and then the conversation gets started and then you have a loss. Anyone got a question that they've maybe never had answered or curious about? Kink, psychology, the how-to, mental health, communication skills, relationships, polyamory, these are all the things I talk about, and we have one already.
Is there any correlation
Sorry,
between...
Take yourself really seriously, John.
Is there any known correlations between like brain development and kinks?
Right, so there's no, okay, that's an issue. Define brain development for me.
In general, not.
Right, so do you mean, and this is what I mean, this is about communication, right? Brain development, what does that question even mean? Like, are you a good girl? Yeah, for me I am, maybe not for you. Like I said, how do we define it? So brain development, so do you mean that maybe someone has had an accident or had issues, and then their brain development has been impacted? Do you mean somebody who's maybe got a brain issue, like neurodiversity? Anyone here neurodiverse? ADHD, yeah, that's a lot of us, I tell you, and who are kinky as well. Even if you're not diagnosed, there's an awfully high percentage for multiple reasons, good reasons. If you want to argue about neurodivergence, that is a brain development issue. You are born that way. You can't be a little bit on the spectrum, that's fucking out. You can't be a little bit pregnant, right? You're either pregnant or you're not. There's no in between. When you're neurodivergent, I know everyone says, oh, it's really trendy there, everyone's got it. Fucking hell. State of the world, I'm not surprised it's showing up more, but you could argue that that would be one of those questions. Is there a correlation? Yes, 100%. Do you mean in the way we're brought up? So it's environmental, the people that we're around? Like, so where does your question take you? What's your curiosity?
More on genetics and just the way that the brain is formed. Is there like a moment where, like two wires, I know it's a bad analogy, but two wires can get across?
I'm kinky.
Yeah,
I'm polished, yeah. Yes and no. So that's an interesting question. So we have genetics. Do you know what genetics are? Yeah, so genetics are it's the way your messages are sent, really. I'm fucking hell, right? I'm not talking pure neuroscience here, I'm just generally chatting. Anyone here a neuroscientist or interested in this sort of stuff or genetics? I'll make it up on that side. So what you have is you have something called a genome, and you have this system whereby messages, not really messages, are sent down about the colour of your skin, the colour of your eyes, the colour of your hair, and some basic things about you. Your height, your weight, your potential in many ways. So genetics dictate that. So like you can have, and genetics go back thousands of generations from the very beginning, and people forget this because you can have an Asian couple who have a white baby. You can have a white and a person of colour have an Asian baby. I'm trying to be more and more specific. And someone goes, fuck me, if you cheated on me. No. Those generational aspects can fall down 30, 40, 50 generations. So the genetics are interesting. So the genetics dictate it. So imagine it's like a book. On top of that, after your basic genetics, you have epigenetics. Anyone learn about epigenetics at all? Is it something you like or?
I've just read it as a hobby because I was curious.
Yes,
like
Absolutely
how
does,
genetics interacts with your environment and how what is in your environment affects the way your genes express.
Absolutely. Yeah, what a brilliant, that's perfect, if you heard that. It's about, so when we have an environmental situation or something happens to us, our genes potentially get a different message through protein, actually. And then that message wraps itself around your whole DNA and sends a different message forward to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Basically, if you want kids, sort your fucking shit out first and your kids will have better messages. If not, understand that that's really okay, and you can help your kids and they'll help you with the messages, and so will your friends. We're not born as stuck anyway that we are when it comes to our minds and different things. There's so much we can do and look at. So, I say some time, those that know me, when I say bingo or whatever, the best bit of research around epigenetics and the influence on us when we move forward is 9/11. There was a really interesting woman called Rachel Yehuda who was working with survivors of the Holocaust. And she was, well, most of these people are really frightened people in uniform. Duh. Most of the people don't want to get on the train. Yeah, funny that. And most of the people will hoard food or put it in their bags. So she was curious about behaviour. What she noticed, though, was the next two sets of generations that she was working had very similar problems or issues. And the immediate assumption is that they must have heard grandma talking about it, surviving the Holocaust. Or it was a really uncomfortable conversation when I was upstairs and they were downstairs. What she found was, of course, a lot of people who've been through something as harrowing as that have issues around stress, PTSD, CPTSD, and what they are like, so like you've got very highly stressed trauma type situations. That is shown in your blood through something called cortisol, which is very similar to what you just had chuck in the hips actually. But cortisol is really bad for you, it will kill you. So when you are highly stressed, cortisol will lift up and it will calm you, and it will lift and it will calm you, and it will lift and it will calm you, but it can't keep doing that. If you are highly stressed all the time, what will happen is the cortisol goes, well, I'm going to fucking kill you if I keep doing this, so I can't. It's not simple as this, right? I'm being very basic here, but what happens then is that cortisol drops below normal at that point, and all these generations she was talking to had very abnormally low cortisol levels. They were already very highly stressed. And when 9/11 happened, did people know what 9/11 is? I appreciate some people might not, but it was a major bombing.
My friend
Did you? I really feel for them. I have family over there. I have a cousin who's a judge, and I say that because she used to scare fucking shit out of me. But and another like second cousin, he was there as well. Watched the buildings, watched the planes coming into the buildings. It's absolutely horrific what everybody went through. Yeah,
because
it's crazy, wasn't it?
that makes us from TV dog that has no sound. I see a plane and I thought, oh,
That War of the Worlds, and that people actually thought the world was
and
invaded.
then 3 days later I'm starting to get phone calls and that
Yeah.
people died.
Yeah. So anyone who watched it was connected to it, was influenced by it on different levels according to our own resilience. What was interesting is she was starting to look into epigenetics, which is one of the transgenerational messages that are sent through, but these are chemical messages through the body because of your experience that are sent through. So what we're also saying is some of your shit isn't even your shit, it's probably your great-great-great-great-grandma's, don't you? Or blame him. And that doesn't mean we can't sort it, we can help with that, but it's interesting. And this does influence Kink and who we are. So she was working with a professor at Edinburgh University. 9/11 happened. She asked any womb-carrying human being, if you were pregnant at the time, please would you come forward at any point in your trimester, or if your placenta was intact and you were giving birth and you were watching 9/11. And guess what she found out? Because they tested the babies and the mothers. Yes, I mean, but some of you know because you listen to me, so I use this as an example fairly often. So don't cheat. Shut up. What was the percentage of babies born with abnormally low cortisol, which meant they already had PTSD at their first breath? That's crazy, isn't it? What percentage of babies were born with PTSD? What do you think? 60, 70, 70, it was 100%. 100% of the babies were born with PTSD. It's fucking shocking. And
How many people did they?
so I can't remember fully. I have to, if you look at Rachel's recruiting the test, but it was hundreds. Hundreds and hundreds. It wasn't a small 10, 15 type group. Because anyone who was influenced or impacted, that's what they asked for. I can't remember the exact thing, I'm really sorry.
I don't know it.
But really worth looking up. She's a really interesting person to listen to anyway.
So how do they know that it's specifically related to many that
Because of the amount of stress that's in their bodies at the time, the mother's response to the stress. So they had a look at their medical history, they had a look at everything else as well. There will always be a correlation with some people who might have other stress as well. So the stats might have come out at 90 or something, if not, but it was abnormally high. That sort of thing doesn't really happen. It doesn't. It's such a freak circumstance as well. And she was asking for people who are impacted at the moment. Maybe they lost a partner, a friend, maybe they watched it, maybe they were there in some way, shape or form. So then what happens is because of these experiences, the protein wraps itself around the DNA and so it sends a different message through to the child. So their genome changes. The genome, that book, what we're calling it for now, that kid then has this bit tip-X out and this bit, the tip-X is off it and scratched, and that's where they're going to go. There's also another really interesting professor, fuck me, I remember his name, no, never mind, it'll come. He used to teach about serial killers. Have you heard about him? He used to teach about serial killers and he had to change his whole university structure and study. He used to take fMRI scans of serial killers and say, yeah, can you see the structure here? This is right. So he would argue that serial killers are born 100% in the child. His family had some serious issues around Alzheimer's. So he was very curious. They were all getting fMRI scans, like head scans, having a look at what was going on. And one of those days, he happened to drop some scans mixed with some others, put them all together, thought, fuck my life, probably. That's not a quote. I don't know if he thought that, but I would. And when he was next at his uni, he put a scan up and he went, yes, so if you look at this person's brain structure, and this is horrific, it was his own brain. It was his own fucking brain. Oh, what's his name? I can't remember. It was his own brain. And he was like, fuck. My whole field was just blown up in my face. Now what do I teach and what do I do? And what was interesting is he knew that he had slightly antisocial personality. We used to call it psychotic in different names, but he knew he had some level of antisocial stuff going on. He did feel very empathic. People got on his nerves. It sounds like a standard practice to me. Just people are annoying, aren't they? But he felt, he knew. And then what they've done since then is looked at the fact that you might have a predisposition in some way for something. It doesn't really mean that it's going to happen though. It is influenced by environment as well. And we can say the same about all of this stuff. So the research that's being done into kink right now, if we're talking about kink, not polyamory, if you look at the research around kink right now, about 10 years ago it was argued that this is a hobby. This is something we just do because we like it and it gives us sexual pleasure in some way, shape or form. Who here was thinking about this shit even when they were a kid? Any of you? Like a fair percentage of the room. Or even those things you like, really, like a friend, an acquaintance friend of mine, he watched films very much the old, these are the wrong words now, okay, but these are his words. I really understand the political incorrectness of what he said. He watched the really old-fashioned cowboys and Indians films, is the way he put it. Or the Victorian person who was tied on the railway. Wahaha, with a big moustache. And he was like, oh, fucking hell, I've got tones and nothing. That's quite nice. And he had that feeling even from a very young place, that he remembered those things and that's what he wanted. And then you find someone to tie up, you find someone to do something with. And if you're as old as I am, before the internet was born, you really have to look for it. There was a back little magazines, you have to do such things to try and find it. Now, that's maybe walking to bestiality by tripping over something. So it's not hard, is it? It's all there. It's all on the internet. So we can get anything we want, not always good. And that has information. But it's a predisposition in our brain, potentially. The more modern research is now saying, if you look at NCSFW, National Coalition of Sexual Freedom from America, they are doing lots and lots of pieces of research into us as kinksters, looking at our predisposition, our genetics, our epigenetics, and if something does happen. I will say, if you have had a trauma around kink in some way, shape or form, before you were kinky, like serious sexual assault or something, a lot of people come into this to try and reclaim themselves, to try and have power, to try and say, I'm strong. Please don't do that by itself. Seriously, because we re-traumatise ourselves when we experience something again and again. Even if you don't, it's not just in your head, it's on a body level. Mitochondria, you have different things in your cells that are, the whole chemistry, the hormones is related very much to trauma. And that's why the brain goes to a certain place. And although you might be in charge, it only takes somebody to do something slightly wrong for you when all of a sudden you're not in charge. And that's when it goes horribly wrong. So please do see somebody who knows a lot about trauma, maybe a lot about kink, and then can, yes, you can play with someone and help get power, but please work through the other side of it. Because when you've had a trauma, it kind of sits on the top of your brain. It's like a sieve that doesn't work the wrong way up. Fuck me, this is age. Some of you have been into ancient, like, computer games, right? It's like the old Pac-Man ghosts. I know I'm really old, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? The old Pac-Man ghost? Yeah. All right, some of you into nostalgia. That's good. But it's like that little ghost. It's always there. It's always just ready to chomp at you. You might be ahead of it by miles, and it might feel okay, but that's what it's like. So if we then put ourselves in a situation and it goes slightly wrong, or the person doesn't listen, depending on your trauma response, fight, flight, freeze, friend, fight, flight, go forward, and many more. I know we often think it's fight, flight, freeze. Fawning, really dangerous for sex and kink. Really dangerous. Yes, I'll do that. I'll do that. Fucking, really dangerous for sex and kink. I mean, my body's responding because that's the way it should be. Freeze is also really bad for kink and for sex because you're not saying anything, so you must be consenting. It's often a thing that we think. So when we redo our trauma, potentially actually it could hurt us even more. So we have genetic predispositions, and the environment also influences us as well. It makes a big difference. So who here has ever suspected a member of their family is maybe a bit kinky, a bit poly, a bit strange? Not so many of you. But if I was walking down the street, would you suspect me? I've got my very flared baggy cords on, which I love. I've got my jumper. There's nothing obvious. Would you make these assumptions? Who, however, here has also heard about finding the person found their dads or their mums or their uncles or someone else's stash of something? That happens often as well, doesn't it? Even if the family don't know. So a lot of us do have this idea. Plus, it is about sex. We're also looking for more thrills than we ever have done. We can get everything quite easily. We can buy, we can shop, we have all these things. We're looking for thrills all the time. And often when we get used to a certain level of thrill, it becomes quite standard. You notice that? Like, if you did anal for the first time, you're like, oh, I did anal last night. When you've done anal 3 million times, you're like, so what? I do it all the time. We don't get the same thrill. Or we might do, depending on different people and different things and experiences. But we look for new thrills. Who here said they are potentially neurodivergent? So if you're neurodivergent on the ADHD spectrum, on that side of things, you're a dopaminer. And BDSM and kink really attracts dopamine. If you think about ADHD type symptoms, squirrel, oh, something new, something exciting, right, all the time. Then you, I want to do that. Oh my God, I really, sorry, so so we're very like squirrel. Have you seen the film Up with the dog? The dog goes, squirrel, that dog. So, and actually, they do talk about that quite a lot, about dogs having, there's a beautiful book for kids about dogs having ADHD, about cats having being on the spectrum of autism somehow. And it's a beautiful little describer. I'm of the theory, actually, that if you are on the spectrum, if you're neurodivergent, you have aspects of both. If you've got one diagnosis, you've got the other. I can be really fickle and whatever, but I'm complete control freak, and I like to know exactly what's going on. Otherwise, I feel unestablished and I get really scared. Come back in 1 second, and I want to know, what are we doing? What's happening? Am I okay? Am I safe? And is it the same? Oh my God, it's changed. Now what do I do? Which is much more autistic than it is ADHD. You're going to say.
So I'm thinking about how theory of mind ties in with autism, ADHD, and kink, and got ideas about how attunement works in with that, co-regulation, self-regulation, etc. How if you work within a scene or if you are kinky with someone else, how does that all play into that interaction?
It absolutely does for me. Like that, and there's more and more research being done on this now as well. So dopamining is one thing. We're looking for thrills in different ways. A lot of people, I'm going to take both as a little bit of a go here. On both parts of that spectrum, people also have like sensitivities to sound, maybe noises, to textures, to light, to being touched in certain ways. You'll find when you play with someone, we can do that, but don't do that. But they're really similar. No, they're not. Like, I don't mind bright lights or whatever, but one of my other daughters, that's my youngest, she's had a very traumatic night, bless her. She was crying as she left, she came home last night. But I'm very out, so she came here for a bit, had some lunch, and she's gone to her office actually. She doesn't want to go home because her flatmate is a bit of a cunt by now, you know. She's not, that's the impression. So she's very ADHD as well, and one of my other daughters is a 2 and 9 are not. They're very different, right? So I've got 4. It's got a 0.89 heritability, 80 to 90% heritability. Plus, is it influenced by environment and other things? Yes, of course it is. If you've got anything, autism, ADHD, any of the other things that fall under that with their comorbidities, it is very much about eat well, live well, exercise well, look after yourself, and do what's right for you. But our sensitivities are different. If you put a label in my clothes, that's like torture to me. They have to come off. If you give me a jumper that's made of wool, I'm like, oh God, no, I can't. Like, this is all soft, I can wear this, I'm good. But give me something scratchy, I'm like, fuck off. Or like, no, I really, really can't do it. I've got another daughter that opens a fridge light, she's like, I'm blind. And others, it's all different things, or noise, too much noise, you see a lot of people being defenders on as well. So in Kink, I'll come back to you in a second, in Kink, we have a chance to control and work with all of that, if you think about it. So it's really nice that we can say, yeah, blindfolding, put something in my ears, not that, too small. Everything stretches, isn't it? Yeah. So I think we do a lot of stuff like that. So we have a lot of those sensitivities. Plus with the dopamining, plus with how thrilled we can feel at different things, different partners. We don't think about the rules and contracting. If we're autistic, we like structure. We like to know exactly what's going to happen when, and we like to know how am I going to have a relationship with you. I might be able to look you in the eyes. That might be one aspect of our autism. Or it might be that I can, but I don't like relationships because I don't know what you're going to do. So I feel unsafe. However, in a really good scene or a really good contracted relationship, if you've got power exchange and different things, what we're looking at all the time is contracting. So I fucking know exactly what's going to happen anyway. You don't, by the way, because it's a shit, because we all have responses. But we feel like we do. So actually, if we are neurodiverse, again, brain, so these two things tie in, actually, it's really tempting. When you think about all the sensory and the contracting and everything else that you feel, you like it. So it's really interesting to work out that there are so many correlations. There really are. And loads of people write about it, like if you ever thought about it. If you look at dark talk, freak talk, TikTok, whatever, there's a real side to that as well, where people do talk about this and the interest between those two things, which is also connected to your question around the BDSM. So there are loads and loads of correlations for the way we like things, why we like things. Plus, anyone ever heard of masking? What masking is? So if you're neurodivergent, often we mask, we pretend to be something we're not. I am fucking antisocial. I don't like crowds. I'm very much a learned extrovert. I'm an ambivert, but I feel drained after I do something. I remember doing 8.5 hours of workshops once at London Fetish Weekend, right back, 8.5 hours. I was completely fucked. I mean, that's a lot, isn't it? And then I sat, and this person wanted to be dead. Can I just ask? And I said, no, you can't. I just can't do anymore. I have nothing left to give right now. Please write to me to make your fucking move. Okay. I love talking. That's another ADHD thing. I love telling stories. Again, that's really good for fantasy. Plus, if you go into fantasies and realities, we really like that. All of this contradicts, and masking is kind of being what everybody wants you to be. I am not for the whole new movement of you should not mask. That's a heap of shit that is. I'm sorry. We all have to mask sometimes wherever we go. If I'm pruning my roses and my neighbour says, "Hello, Deborah, how are you?" I'm okay. I got fisted last night from a bit sore. Maybe not the conversation to have with the fucking neighbour, right? It is. Plus, we don't share the way that we do. I saw it the other day. I try and stay off a lot of like Facebook and stuff like that. I don't use it. I just want every day to take off anything I've ever written on it. When a memory comes up, I'm going to go. Yeah, no, don't do later. But she wrote in A&E with my child. Fucking hate that sort of, like, at least say, this is the problem, we're okay, send thoughts, send love, write to me. Because what that does, it then goes, oh my God, are you okay? It gets you interest. If you want interest, say you want interest. There's a difference. So masking is actually a very effective tool in order for us to survive. And we're teaching our children in school not to mask right now. I'll come back to you, so I'm going to come back there as well. And I know it's quite controversial to say, the world isn't going to change for us. It's not. And if it does, it's going to take thousands of years for the epigenetics to get through eventually. The same as if you look at race culture, or if you look at patriarchy, or if you look at inequality. It takes hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years for these things to change. So right now, it ain't going to change that way. So if we need to work and we need to find that balance between those things. And this sort of shit gives us a reprieve from that. Because you can be yourself, you can be who you are, you can be the crazy dinosaur-minded squirrels that we are. And we have other people that love us and get on with us and love that. And don't question, why do you like to do that? I can see upstairs, like, the staff are really good here. There was definitely someone earlier was looking at somebody who was dressed, and she definitely went, and that's quite a normal reaction. But if you're hanging around people like us, what happens, especially in kink or anything else as well, is you just get used to your friends accepting you. It's really shocking to me sometimes to know that in the UK, the population of LGBTQI is around 6%. 6%. Work that out if you go to the post office. It's not a lot, is it? Now, is it getting a little higher? It's only minimal, actually. So, but for me, actually, I think it might be like 98% of my friends are queer, kinky, and like, because most of the people I know. That's it for some of you. But then you might take work differently as well. So it becomes your norm. So you don't have to mask it, but you do have to mask it at post office. To the person with your roses. There are inappropriate things to say to help you get on and to help you manage. And it's a really difficult balance to achieve. So part of being here lets us be who we are. When we're playing and doing all those things, and it's okay to say, spank me, daddy. Come down my throat, please, sir, mistress, mummy. Those things are all okay. I ran an event quite a few last year, and I haven't forgotten, I promise. And it's called Planet Poppy's Playground with my best friend, Poppy. And my daughter owns two businesses, not that one, another one. She owns a soft play and she owns a cheerleading gym. And I do an awful lot of work in the cheerleading gym with kids, psychology, motivation, and they're amazing kids, fucking world champions again and again and again. I'm in America, they've won worlds and won summits and all of that stuff. They're really good. And we were talking at their soft play, and I said, look, you have a think about this. I would like to run a soft play event for some nipples. I want to allow nappies but no feces. They'll be really respectful. This is what will happen. Are you interested? And they were like, yeah. Like, these are the potential consequences. Have you got what I'm saying here? Fucking hell, the Sun found out about it. The newspaper. It's a piece of trash. And what you then got, the responses after this. So what you've got is a bunch of people in this soft play who are kinder and gentler than most of the parents I've seen them. I watch some of the parents go like, fucking come here, you little one. I'm like, Jesus Christ, okay. You've got mummies and daddies as adults saying, come here, baby girl, you're so good, I love you. And it's so beautiful. And you've got everything right. All the facilities, everything is so lovely for them to have, including an nappy changing area with a license to put nappies in the bin, no shit, no accidents. I've watched toddlers drop their trousers in a larger crate being shit in it. Like, none of these adults did that. None of these littles did anything like that. And the worst thing, if you want to talk about fluids, I think the worst thing was I also had this craft area where they can make their own bottles and cups. So I had glue and like all sorts of little things that I could stick on and do. And I bought the cups and I bought everything that they could use and make. That was as much fluids as there were. But because of who we are, what it then got was, oh my God, that place needs going over the black light, there's probably urine, there's probably spunk everywhere, I can't take my children in there. Have you seen a hen party or a sack party on those places? There's more piss and vomit from them than there is from any, and from the children and the toddlers. Got their fingers up their nose and just wipe it on the side. Your phones carry more bacteria than your fucking arsehole, put it that way. Same as if you kiss someone, arsehole is cleaner. You want to ring someone and go, ooh, that's disgusting. Think about before or afterwards, but I mean, clearly, if someone's had a shower, and things like that is your thing. But it's really important to understand those differences as well. It's really important. And devastating, what we had was fucking paedophiles, perverts, and the biggest one was they were just interested in the children. Because that's the judgment from the outside. So it's really hard to be yourself. It's really hard to unmask and genetically find out even who you are. You kind of point.
Yeah, I was going back and looking at the thing. Take me a minute first if you like. In lots of like in consent structures, whatever you want to call it, rights, rat, whatever.
Yeah.
There's the concept of sobriety, obviously. Like you mentioned earlier, probably not playing water pistol is not the best idea.
Well, unless you
Unless you
pre-negotiate.
pre-negotiate.
You know, I have a real thing about I really want to be drunk so I don't remember fucking thing someone plays it back to me. I mean, I'm up for that. Yeah. I'm not up for the fact that I don't know how I'm going to react. Yeah. When the drugs are.
Exactly.
So I go, I'm done here. Yeah.
But when we talk about sobriety, often what comes up as well is emotional sobriety. And when you have mental health disorders or things like, say for example, bipolar, where you have like a manic episode that's quite similar to being under drug, like under.
Yeah, for sure. Especially mania more than
Especially
depression.
more mania than depression.
Absolutely.
But when you, and I was wondering what your take on it is when, for example, I have ADHD, and oftentimes it's never quite manic, but it does often get to a place where my like impulsivity, etc., is dissimilar to other people's baseline. You know, it's not. There's no perfect normal person. But how do you approach emotional sobriety?
Well, it's an interesting question, isn't it, emotional sobriety. Look, if you are compass mentis, you are compass mentis. If you are capable of making decisions, you make decisions. I'm a big believer in owning your decisions. I'm aware that for me, growing up, fuck me, my drug was sex. I've probably fucked at least around 1,000 human beings in my life, which is a very high figure. You can go, what the fuck, dead, straight away. I don't regret any of them, but do I think all of them were right or okay? Absolutely not. I've made very bad decisions in those points of some self-doubt or some just immediacy or need. Especially with ADHD, sometimes we really just need, if we're dopamine, or indeed if we're suffering from RSD, which is rejection sensitivity dysphoria, if somebody else wants us, we don't feel okay. And of course, a hard copper or wet cunt clearly means that they like us. It doesn't like us. People actually get raped and have orgasms. It's not voluntary, but it's an involuntary physiological thing for a lot of people. So we need to get that right. I think if you know that an episode is coming, or you can feel it coming, it can be a really good idea to take some things out of your diary. Like you fucking can though, right? That's the problem. I think if you are playing with people doing stuff, it's the same if you're a big self-harmer. Erin's just left, she's got 3 cuts on her leg after yesterday. She feels like shit. And she didn't mean for me to notice, but I talk about these things with my kids anyway quite a lot. I'd hate to have these in my life. It's a fucking nightmare, right? And she can make some really bad decisions when she wants to kind of things and works in those ways. But like, if you want some harm, I think it's very different to when I'm saying to somebody, I need something. I have a need right now, and I know that when I go into these phases that I might need something. I think it's respectful to tell the other person that they're the facilitator in that moment. I think that's a good thing consensually. But it's more about you. How much do you regret? What decisions do you have? Because emotional sobriety is fucking impossible unless you've got a drug that can control everything, and there's nothing like that exists. And ADHD is a neurodivergent. You do not need therapy, you need coaching. It's a big mistake. It's a fucking big mistake to go for therapy if you have ADHD and or any form of neurodivergent. I know it's quite controversial for some people to hear, but it's a really big mistake. You need coaching, and the coaching is different to therapy. So for me, if I were working with someone like you, I said, do you have any regrets after this? What sort of things are? Is there a pattern here? How do we help you protect yourself? Come back, I promise, to get it done. That's the sort of thing I would say. And then how do you know you're going to make bad decisions and live with the regrets as well? For me, it's also about safety. If you're making decisions that are unsafe sexually, by the way, there is no such thing as safe sex, please just get that out of the way. It does not exist. There is always a pregnancy risk. There is always an STI, STD, whatever you want to call them this. There's always a risk of harm. It doesn't exist. So how much of a risk do you want to take? What does it mean? So I've worked from that level, and then look at coaching to try and help you with that sort of thing, working backwards as much as possible. It's not about you bringing up a child with therapeutically saying, I really understand why you do that. I can help, it's a little bit there, but not in the same way. So there's no such thing as emotional sobriety for me. There can't be. Yeah, who here has ever felt really down and shit at least once in their life? Anyone? And at that time, we have a conscious decision. Maybe. Maybe different times. We do, don't we? And I think it's a weird thing that we say to ourselves, oh no, you must be fully in and of yourself and know yourself. You must have huge regret. It's just fucking hard life. It's just quite normal that we don't always cope with everything that we do. But it's how our resilience builds up so we can manage it as well. I'm a big believer, as somebody who's on both aspects of that it's not an excuse, it is a reason why I do something. And I have to look at how much I engage myself and what I do. It becomes a personal responsibility, and it also becomes a conversation with anyone I'm playing with, that I might have a propensity to, where I could ask. It's really helpful for me sometimes if somebody says, yeah, this is for this, and what are you doing here? That's really helpful. Somebody just gives me that cold, sober reminder sometimes. Or, again, it doesn't change the plan. But I also am a big believer consensually, if you agree what's about to happen between the 2, 3, 4, 300 of you, whatever it is. Because it can be a lot of people, I think people need to know. I remember once being in a cameraman, sorry, that was really graphic, and literally had, God, I've mentioned this before, so I've got a cock in my mouth, I've got a cock on each hand, I've got a cock in my mouth, and I've got a cock in my cunt. And at that moment, I'm thinking, if anyone lets go at any one stage, I want you to face plant the floor, break my nose. That's all I was thinking. It's nothing. If it goes too far, so I really agree that can't do this, you can't do that. But in that heady moment, I think if somebody would have said to me, can we do this? I might have just said yes, because you're in that headiness. Well, I want some people around me who understand that, who then will say, no. A friend of mine, many years ago, 20 years ago, we're in a club. This guy started to do something, and I'm like, she doesn't like that. She's gone. She's in a substance not drop. She's in a space that isn't healthy. She's gone. She's not with us. And I'm an interfering cunt, right? I will speak out of things. I went over and I said, you need to stop. You know, who the fuck are you? Like, somebody's going to get in a lot of trouble. I won't have that. I'm the sort of person who's definitely going to get off to the tube when there's racism or anything. I'm not there. I hate it. I'm straight in. What are you doing? Oh. So yeah, personal safety is always a good thing. Still being the fight for people's rights more than fucking anything. I was on those pride marches. I've been on the BDSM marches. I believe in our rights and other people's as well. And he was just doing. She was gone. And eventually she came back. I double checked with her. He was doing stuff she didn't want to do, but she was passed out, so he didn't give a fuck. And that's what you need people around us. Look, you're not always going to have someone watching every play and sex session that you have either, are you? So it's just that awareness. We tend to jump into things too fast as well. Then it gets played. Let's go. And actually, then it's not okay. So it's that sort of thing. You had a question, Jack.
I don't know if it's answerable, but I'm going to give it a shot.
So it says touch me, let that goes.
So this is more so from an event runner moderation standpoint. Obviously, there's really no such thing as saying when it comes to say something consensual. Or
I don't believe in saying.
yeah. I mean, when it comes to a neurodivergent or any many aspects there, but with pride as well. How would you approach? What would your opinion be on disabilities or neurodivergence when it comes to specifically two instances I'm thinking of? One, so I have a lot of friends and one partner who was autistic, who are in who I view as definitely competent to look after themselves and engage safely. When I first started moderating events, there was an autistic person who I would say recognized their autism to cross many boundaries, and we had to physically pull them back from being put in the face by bloggers countless times. People kind of value too much going, we have to allow them in because we can't discriminate against their autism. But at what
You can
point?
discriminate against their fucking actions.
And the other one is
It's not
I know
discrimination.
someone who has DID. And so at what point?
Very different.
Exactly.
So do people know what DID is? Usually called multiple personality disorder. You've seen it like split, so it's dissociative identity disorder.
So one of their authors is a minor. And so they refer to him as a little, but it's not different.
It's a natural
that, that genuine brain is of a 5-year-old. How do you regulate when a 5-year-old pops up in the middle? Like how? I don't know how to approach that. Whether is that person not allowed or
Yeah, but the problem is you can't. So, and this is the problem, you can't. However, to go back to the first one, I don't give a fuck what you've got. Don't be a cunt. Right? And if you're walking into things with creating danger for yourself or others, if the venue says that that's not okay and that's the rules, then it's the rules. I have such a problem with people saying, but I can't go this cause. Then you don't really think about it. I ran loads and loads of workshops, especially during lockdown, because people were very disenfranchised, lost, and everywhere. So I was literally running 2 workshops a week free of charge, and 100 people coming in every week, just to connect and just to talk. And this person said, hi, I felt that, they didn't like that, but that's what it felt like. Hi, you're probably coming for the shit. Okay, right, so again, that's quite an interesting form of recognisation of, I know that I'm about to say it's bad, but don't come at me about it. I don't need to be funny, but, well then don't be, stop talking now. Yeah, and they said, so I really love Kink, and I always do things consensually, I'm really careful. However, when I go into a drop, when I come out there, I tend to punch the person in the face that I'm with. Now, hang on a second. You're on your back to your front, so you should wake up like, oh, what the hell? I'm curious about that. And they said, I said, this isn't therapy, I'm telling you now, get some fucking help, don't do it, this is not consensual. Or the other person needs to strap your head and your hands to your body so it doesn't happen. And they deserve the right to know that that's about to come. Like, that is assault. It's bigger than common assaults and makes it like it's assault, depending on the damage that they do as well. So we do have to be responsible for ourselves. If we have a little, like, there are also, I work a lot with DID, I have at least 3 clients in DIDs actually. And I have to really work out who I'm talking to and what's going on at the time and what it means. And I always talk to the other parts of themselves fairly often to make sure that everyone's safe. Because if I'm talking to one of their activities called Sunshine, she's about 6, and she works in a Kink Club. However, Sunshine functions well in a Kink Club because she just sees everyone having fun. And she doesn't see it as naughty or bad or sexual. If you need to know too much about that person in that moment, otherwise you can't do it. The truth is you cannot. You cannot make sure everyone's safe at the time in the club. I'm a big advocate for personal responsibility and awareness. More than safe and sane, because it's not safe, half of what we do. Anyone here like being choked out? Or like choking someone else? Let's play of any kind, anyone like it?
I wanted to ask about this.
I'll come back to you then, I promise. And it's fucking dangerous, you can die in a split second. If you want to look at the stats over the last few years about how many women, especially, being killed by it, they're in double figures. And the accidents that happen because maybe someone's pissed and choked snap too long. There was a guy in Scotland a few years ago who just met this person, they were both pissed as arseholes, he chokes her out, she dies, she's dead. And he's like, well, I don't know what to do here. So he goes for a walk for half an hour. He got done for it as well. Like, these things do happen. We can't control, we can only look at our own responsibility. I might know a lot about consent, I might know a lot about what to do medically. I mentioned her as well, Randy Gray, who's quite famous Swedish and porn star. Now she educates a lot. She was in the middle of a forest with no one, just a John, who wasn't looking after himself and he had diabetes. And as he ties her and pulls the rope across, he dislocates her jaw. No phone, nothing. Now, they're lucky he came round. Didn't have his drugs with him, didn't take his drugs. It's all about knowing people, isn't it? Same for you in that moment. It's just get that little bit of knowledge or awareness of what's your safety backup. If you are a human being who gets yourself involved in Kink in any way, ask what will I do if and what's my safety plan. Please, because you're the only person to look after yourself. Because everyone panics in their own way. So just have that awareness. But if you're bound, gagged, at least get to know the person. When it comes to a club, for me, it's about the rules. What you're allowed to do around the rules. She is a minor in that moment, even though she's 5. But you've got to remember she isn't 5. Her other alters are there. They might not be conscious, but they can be conscious if the situation is bad enough. For me, again, I would also therapeutically know a lot more about that, because if her 5-year-old was the one that was attacked and that's her original So a lot of people would do, I didn't have like the original person that they were. Let's say they were Jane, this is Jane. And Jane almost disappears. I'm sorry if anyone's called Jane, right? Jane disappears because the other ones just take over. A lot of people don't have recollection, but some do. You have to know so much, so it's just an awareness. There is nothing you can do. But then I think that plays a gives a human being because you want to protect and you want to look after, and you'll get things right.
It's more so my worry of either do I go too far in line and now I am, prejudiced against this person, or do I facilitate them going and then I am facilitating a minor attending a club? So it's
But you're not, it's the language there that's the problem. You are not facilitating a minor attending a club, you're facilitating an adult attending a club who has the idea, who can be responsible for themselves. And that's part of the problem. We have to watch our language, don't we? We can talk about things like, and then they penetrated me, right? That's weaponising that word, isn't it? I'm sorry, how many times have you been penetrated by a finger or a digit picture I know? It's not necessarily an attacking statement. We've got to watch the words we're using nowadays. Like, fuck me. You're right there, Jesus Christ. It's quite shocking. So you're not facilitating anything. If you allow that person in your club and you watch it and you see how it goes, if they become a danger to themselves or others, you have a right to say you can't be here. You don't know that till you see. And I personally would not allow someone who gets themselves on the way flogs and everything else, they get a warning. You're not getting a second warning from someone like me. You're not. And I'm happy with that though, I don't really care what you say about me. But we worry because of reputations and everything else as well. But eventually those things do ride out. Safety is paramount as much as it can be. You can't police and control everything. It's just not possible.
It's one of the reasons here in our playroom we have it fenced off. So you can only have people who are playing on the kits. There's no chance for passers-by to wander in and out. Obviously not everyone has that luxury. It's a network.
That personal responsibility really matters. I mean, if I switched in the past as well, it's not my thing. So I'm a submissive. I'm mainly a cut queen, loving cut queen. I'm also really into DDLG, but I'm not little when I do it. I'm really aware that I want it sexually as well. Nothing good in saying daddy fucking me now. Like, I love it, but it's not really my daddy. I do know the difference. It doesn't mean I'm incestuous. That's the point. There are differences as well. So it doesn't make any danger to myself or others in that moment. And that's the question that it's always to ask. That if I've ever switched and I've been doing something, if I pull something back and someone walks into my swing, although I'm going to be mortified that they've been hurt, it's not my fucking fault. You're walking into a play area. Personal responsibility. I've also shared a story, and I haven't forgotten, promise I'm coming back, that I remember, and again, if you've heard me or it's one I've shared, I remember kidnapping this Amazonian woman once. Not really, like, it's all set up, right? Myself and my male dominant partner. I mean, she's like 6'4". She's really, really tall. And we attached her. It was all arranged with her dom. We knew everything. We had the list. We did everything. I'm quite clear about these things. I'll cross and be autism helps with that with the contracting, but and all the limits or whatever. Did I stop? Prior to this, we bought this beautiful bed in like a sex foam type convention thing, whereby we took the two ends off. You lifted this whole thing up, and it became this amazing St. Andrew's Cross flogging station thing with massive. We had a dining table that flipped as well. We did the same. Amazing stuff you can buy, right? Don't drop any of your peas, that's it. Why have you got all these things? Don't leave your handcuffs on it if your parents done that, right? Why have you got those things under there? They're very handy if you want to hang anything there to use. Or if I put really big screws and different things in my ceiling, it's the same principle. Why is that so heavy? Because I like to ask. But I'm out, so my friends and family know anyway, it's different. But got her, we start doing all these things, she's having a great time, we're having a great time, we all are, there's three of us, my male dominant partner, myself and her. I crack her one round the face at one stage. She really likes humiliation, she likes stuff, I spat in her mouth and I slapped her in the face. All completely okay. So I thought, she knew breaks this oak bed trying to kill me at this point. She has lost it with me. And I'm like, what the fuck? What's happening here? And I know something's wrong now actually, because I'm like, number one, I can't let her out like that, so I think she actually might kill me. She's already broken half the frame of the bed on one side. And this is, I've struggled against that bed, not anymore, but like, believe me. And I was like, ooh. So I found her dog, and I said, hi, seems to be a problem. He said, well, what happened? make notes on this, and that's not. What do you mean? What's on the list? She does not want to be slapped ever around the face. It's a hard limit. I've just broken her consent. And I feel fucking shit. So I calm her. My job to calm her. My job to apologise. We sorted it out. And I think this is the other problem. Nowadays, I think, take it how you like, I think I would chase off the scene if I did that sort of thing. I think we make mistakes. We learn from our mistakes on the scene. Like, we get things wrong. We do wraparounds. We use the wrong thing. We hear one thing and we actually think that means this. We do in relationships anyway, don't we? Mistakes get made. And I think we have to be really careful about then chucking someone out rather than educating them or helping them move forward in any way, shape, or form. We tend to say you're out rather than let me help you. And with best defence afterwards for years, it was all good. But what it did say to me is I'm never fucking doing a third party safety list ever again in my life. If I'm going to contract with you, I'm going to contract with you, not with John or anyone else. I want to back up on you. That might ruin a kidnap scene. Yeah, it did. I'm just never doing that again. So you make different decisions as you go forward, I think, in different ways. You had a question when you had it. You can ask something. What were you?
I wanted to go back to a little bit about dopamine mining, but in the sense of, so obviously with all the extra activity and you're also trying to get that dopamine fix. But then what about things like with pain play, any kind of pain play, where you're getting a bit of an endorphin high, or say with something like eye gazing, maybe getting a bit of an oxytocin high, you know, like how does that affect it? Like,
well, they're different hormones, aren't they? So dopamine is definitely looking for dopamine because in the neurodivergent brain, especially for ADHD, we do not have enough dopamine, not in the right way. We process it slightly differently. We create it differently. It has a different impact on it. So we're looking at stuff. Whether we're shopaholics, sexaholics, whether we have addictions, we're much more likely to be addicted to something. We're looking for a thrill always. Now, other hormones can help balance different hormones. So, for example, the reason so many women are being diagnosed with ADHD, especially women who are in their 30s and 40s, are because of the lack of estrogen. So, when we get close, you can also watch. I'm going to use the word women, so it doesn't mean I define everyone women and men. Like, I'm really aware. If you look at somebody's having a period, if you've got a neurotypical person, when their estrogen is high, they're okay. When their estrogen drops, when you look at their ovulation cycle, when their estrogen drops is when they can't handle it, they feel down, they feel shit, they feel a bit like, I haven't got enough estrogen in my body in a certain way. It's worse for people with ADHD, way worse. Some people with a high level of estrogen, that's when they feel really emotional and shit and terrible, and being neurotypical as well. But when your estrogen drops, because it's a precursor for dopamine, that is also then when you feel really bad if you're neurodivergent. So it can be quite oppositional for some of us. We need to look at it. Same for men. When you look at testosterone or anything else as well. Testosterone is a tear blocker, really high, and actually women as well. We've all got all these hormones in our body. They have very specific functions. Some of them are precursors for dopamine, some of them are not. And when we want something, if you train your body to get it from one thing, like I take drugs or I do alcohol or I have lots of sex or any of those things, that's part of the problem. It's the conditioning of it, but that's how we create it. There are other ways. If I'm always late, I'm not. As an ADHDer, I'm always on time. I have to be early. Because I've been so told off as a little girl if I'm late or things aren't right, that I've over-conditioned myself to always be early. So it doesn't always follow if this is direct. If you then meet a woman who's perimenopausal or menopausal, and a man, if they transition, or anything else as well, that's fucking hate with gender, right? People, human fucking beings, let's just go with that. If you are going through perimenopause or menopause, the likelihood is you've got next to no estrogen in your body, you're in trouble. If you need cancer, I'm a cancer patient. I had cancer 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I have no estrogen in my body whatsoever because my breast cancer is fed by estrogen. So I have estrogen inhibitors, which means my skin's a bit drier. I'm not as elastic. I'm simply elastic. My skin's fucking split, but I'm not as elastic as I was inside as well. You can definitely feel it. But it also means if I have next to estrogen, it means my dopamine is very increasing. And then when we do things like take amphetamines, which we do, there's a whole load in there if anyone wants to steal them. They're a monitored registered drug. I mean, like, it's a big thing. But it doesn't make you go fast, it doesn't make you feel good, it just makes you go. what it does to me. And only 70% of people with ADHD respond. I'm never taking drugs until 2 years ago, and I'm going to take them until I think I've got another year of estrogen inhibitors, and I'm going to try and stop them off because all my coping mechanisms worked all of my life. I was diagnosed when I was 21. That's unusual, really unusual. So we can manage and cope. So the hormones are all related. That's the problem. Oxytocin might make you feel loved, but if you aren't getting the dopamine, your brain won't think clearly. So oxytocin is the sort of drug you get like if you hold someone's hand. It's called the cuddle drug. Joe Malone were really good at that in London a few years ago. They realised that when they opened a store, she researched it. So if you have, we'll come back to, I promise. If you used to go in, if anyone remembers Joe Malone when you're sort of a bit older, not naturally what I used to order, but you went in and you would have a hand massage with a product. That's really fucking good sales. Because the smell permeates, you feel the love cuddle drug, oxytocin, you are double the amount likely to buy in that moment. That's clever, isn't it? It's like when you're playing with someone, you hold their hand and you start doing all these things, they're more like to lots of eye contact makes people fall in love, and makes people feel more connected. All those things play with your hormones. If you know how to manipulate them, don't because you're a cunt, but just be aware of them if you don't as well. You wanted to ask something and then I will come to you as well. You wanted to talk about it.
I just wanted to know about breath control techniques and the agreements and how to apply it and what to be careful, pay attention to.
Are you on FetLife?
Huh?
Are you on FetLife, the website?
No.
Okay, I have an extensive writing on breath play. I really do. And I'm going to say this, fuck you if you don't agree, and I really don't care. It's one of the best writings about breath play. Right? Sorry, but it is. Because I'm really realistic about it. So there is no such thing as safe breath play. It does not exist. The risk is death and brain damage. That's it. So it doesn't exist as a safe way of doing things. There are safer ways of doing things. So it's all about the risk you're willing to take. So you have two forms of breath play, two or three. You've more blood control, more air control. So anyone here, army, jiu-jitsu, that sort of thing, you've got kind of army training anyway, shape or form, I've done that. Yeah? So you know how to choke somebody out fairly quickly, I assume, or you've been taught that in some way, shape or form.
Under 10 seconds.
Under 10 seconds. And actually can make someone knock out in 0.8 something if it's bad enough and quickly. And we say it's safe, right? Problem is, as soon as you start, depends what you're doing and where. So there's different impacts from different forms of breath play. Especially if people tend to do this. Good, I won't go to short range, it would cause some damage. The safest form of breath play, if you want to play with breath play, is literally to hold the other person's nose and to put your mouth over their mouth and you breathe in and out. You can breathe, they can't. And then you watch their body responses. You have galvanic skin responses, which are about heat and cold and sweat. Thing is, how do you know when that person isn't okay? Is it when they pass out and hit the floor? At what point? So for me, it's researching everything. If I'm going to do breath play, number one, anyone here first aid can do research. Because for me, I'm going to be really fucking rude to most of you now. If you are a top, go on a fucking first aid course and learn how to resuscitate somebody. If you are doing breath play, or you are doing anything where somebody could get hurt, fucking learn how to resuscitate them before you play. I'm a big believer in learning anatomy, learning basics, and around psychology. If someone's having a panic attack, do you know what to do? They're tied up. Most of us don't. Please learn that shit before you just go for the pleasure bit. Because you are now responsible. You are killing somebody, you are causing brain damage. There's a really horrible thing on FetLife a couple of years ago, I don't know if you remember. Is anyone who's on FetLife? People on FetLife? I don't know if you remember this. There was a really big thing that blew up about a waterboarder. Do you know what waterboarding is? When you put a cloth over a face, you tip it backwards and pour water in. It's torture treatment. However, breath play is more extreme than waterboarding. It really is. It's the most extreme thing that we can do. I've got videos at the end of my writing that show you somebody experimenting with it, literally going out in under 0.3 of a second and they're gone. It's still one of the biggest killers of men who use it for masturbation, because you can't then control it. If you fall against the road, something else is where you're fucked. And it's still a large killer of women. But it's all about risk. If you're older, if you're larger, if you have high blood pressure, things don't choke out. The likelihood of you developing and having a stroke or having some form of blood clot increases massively. So know your partner's bloody medical history as well. Know what to do if that sort of thing should happen. Know as well if they're on aspirin, for fuck's sake. If you bruise someone on aspirin, it's very different if you bruise someone who isn't, for example, or if they're on blood thinners or heat drugs. So you need to know all these things. So the first thing I say to people is, learn your anatomy and physiology, then know how to resuscitate somebody, and then start with these things. So the safest way is if you use masks and everything, but you can't control what's happening in the mask. I don't think you've ever tried to rip latex off you, it's quite hard. To get your fingers in it and rip it is actually quite hard, it's quite solid stuff. Even though it catches on the smallest things, you've got a fucking great big tear in it, and you try to get it open, it doesn't fucking move when you tear it, right? It's all the way. So the safest one is by pinching their nose, putting your mouth over there so you're creating a seal, and breathing in and out with them. But if you are massively turned on at that moment, are you fucking listening and watching what's going on? That's the other thing we have to be aware of, because you are responsible. This waterboarder, this was a large man who's a fire worker of some kind, wasn't he, in America, and he had a smaller, dominant female partner, and she was a nurse, so she knew a lot about resus and everything else as well. Problem is, they were waterboarding. Are there different rules around taking someone out of the water when they're sober enough compared to if they're on land? 100%. It's a completely different form of resus. Not only is it a different form of resus, they don't even recommend the recovery position because you drown in your own you drown in your own life. Like when you're going on a race or something, you tend to overdrink. There are so many aspects of it. Not everything's happening is next to nothing. It's about knowledge. And unfortunately, it went too far. It caused him serious brain damage. And by the end of the first year, I think he billed for $175,000, something like that, or like 78 then. And she's going to sit with him, he's going to be okay. But of course, she couldn't and didn't. It's too much. And he disappeared, didn't he? And the thing was always that, because he said he was going to kill himself, and nobody knows. Nobody knows. So do these things happen? Yes. So it's understanding the risk, your risk profile. What are you willing to take? I watched this, I don't know about you, I watched this arrest video yesterday like this. Sorry about that, I did. And this young woman had been lured to these other people. She basically was having an affair with this person's partner. So this person and the sister nicked his phone while he was asleep and said, come to the house. So then they got hold of her and they beat her up. They were so angry with her. They did a little bit of like beating up, thought they were really hard or whatever. They didn't think they hurt her. They then took her phone and said to make you come to our house. She walked, followed them, stumbling, and they're going to text her husband because they were both having an office affair. When she then got back, she ended up going to the hospital. She died from her injuries. She died from her injuries. It wasn't, she didn't hit her that hard, they didn't do anything. It's the way she hit her head when they knocked her down. And her head hit the floor. This girl, when you watch her in her interview, she's arrested for robbery. Why is it robbery? You took her phone. Yeah, no, I didn't take her phone. I'm sorry, did you take it without her permission? Yes. Then it's fucking robbery. You took her phone. You took it away from her and you went somewhere. It's robbery. And you're also being done for murder. First degree murder. You might not have meant to murder her. That would be taken down to manslaughter. We all know that because she didn't actually mean to murder her. But at the moment, that's what she's going in under. Because it was an accident. And we have to think about what happens as well. Reputation, everything else. If you end up joining FetLife, I would recommend that you do. I'm not saying it's a good site, but it's not. Some of us are shitting as well. But if you contact me, I'm capital TAG, capital KINK, capital S, Kink Shrink. I have a really long piece of writing on it, even to the point where anyone who uses a belt to strangle someone else over. Use a leather belt. It's a nice sound, isn't it? You rip it off and it's like, fucking hell, yeah, I'll just clean my hands. Right? It's a nice sound, isn't it? However, I'm going to say to you, have a special belt to do it. Please take out that tiny little toggle, that little bit of metal that hooks in the hole. Because if you wrap it around someone's throat and you pull it, if that gets caught, what do you have to do to loosen it? You have to pull it harder again. And then you hope that it catches and it goes. So there are so many methods and ways. So for example, depending on what you use, if you use strangulation, if you use silk, if you use rope. There are ropes that respond differently to body sweat and external conditions and water that tighten. There are ropes that don't. I don't know about you, I think silk's a gorgeous material. I sleep on a silk pillow, I fucking love it. But it's a cunt when you try and unknot it, it's really cool sometimes. because you can't quite get that bit to unlock it. That's the difference between life and death. If you're not watching a person, they've got a pillow over their face, if you don't know them, how do you tell what colour they're turning on what's happening? So am I trying to put you off? Yes. I am, but I'm not trying to put you off. I'm saying please get educated and make your risk-aware choices. And make sure they are aware, because we like it because it's hot. And there's also lots of silly little things as well. Like I remember being in some lingerie, fucking high heels on. The person I was seeing really knew what they were doing with the blood code, which is also different, which is down here. And he could take me out probably under a second. And I'd often wake up to him fucking me or whatever, which I consented to and wanted, right? However, one of these times I went down, fuck me, I near enough broke my ankle. Because you have to think about how you're going to hit the deck as well. And where are you? What body position are you in? How do you watch that? And my ankle just twisted, and it just ruined the rest of the evening when I did come out. I'm sobbing, and this is up because I went, no, it's not my ankle, really wrong sort of pain. And it ruins the rest of the evening. So again, it's all about thinking about what those things mean. And now, after cancer, after 2 lung clots in each lung and a few other things, I can't have that level of breath anymore because I've just lost 4 stone, which makes a big difference. Another 2 to go. That can help with my blood pressure. If my blood pressure is high, given what I've been through, the likelihood of a stroke is high, no more. There's also knowing some of the medical conditions, needs, and everything else as well. What drugs they're on and how it works. It's just so fucking complex. That's the problem. So if you go on, follow me. No, don't follow me because I don't care about that sort of thing. But have a writing written there, so you can write to me and I'll link you to it and have a good read of that with the videos as well. You were asking.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this goes a little bit off topic, but throughout the scene when I first started and the years afterwards, of course, I come across people who would be new to scenes and lunch and everything else, and I'd always tell them about things you're getting into, be mindful of, like consent checks, make sure you know safe work, everything else. And the topic of like red flags, things I've noticed as years go on, you find that there's more, I guess you call them subtle red flags, and you might know when you talk to someone who's a bit more newer to the scene, they might not be aware of them. So for yourself who's been in the scene for as long, what would be ones that you would see as a subtle red flag that not many people would know?
I think red flags are interesting, right? What's the colour of love and lust? Red. And what's the shape for colour and lust and heart, yeah? I think the problem is when you start falling for someone or your chemicals are really, really high in that moment, you can't see a fucking red flag because you're in red. Your hormonal responses are overwhelming and we tend to ignore ourselves. And I think it's that point sometimes when we're churning a little bit, the biggest red flag to me is not listening to yourself, actually. Because you know. You see someone and you watch something and you go, I'm just going to let that go. How many times do you let something go? That's a big one. However, red flags, how they are with other people, how they communicate with servers, how they see other human beings. Do they stick to their word and how much? If they ignore questions and communication, that's a big one for me. Hello, darling, have you arrived? 30 questions later, they still haven't answered the fucking question. They're just interested in what they're interested in. What sort of relationships do they have outside? Would anyone on the scene recommend them? I think I don't want to recommend anybody actually, even if I have played with them, because one person's good and another person's toxic. And I watch a lot of relationships that are really fucking toxic, and it was as their abuser, but when they break up and they're with somebody else, they're really fucking happy. And they're good, and nothing bad happens. Sometimes between 2 people or 3 or 4 people, there can be real toxicity. Doesn't make them a horrific abuser or anything else as well, it's just a different form of relationship. It's a hard one. So red flags to me are people not listening, people not considering, or if I ask for something, so I want a good morning and a good night text. I'm not looking for you to fuck me, play with me, or whatever. I've done people like you a million times in my life. I know you think you're good, this is regards to gender. I know you think you're going to be able to make me come from penetration. I never have in over 1,000 people, so come on, guys. Not just guys, I mean everybody, because I've said it in my life. It's just not going to happen for me, but I'm open-minded for it happening. But I can guarantee when I meet people, they go, I'll make it happen. You're right there. I've had more sex than you've had hot dinners, and more sexual things. So like, I know my body, and only around 70% of women come from penetration anyway. If you have slept with 20 women, they've all told you that, they're fucking lying to you. Right? That's a pleasure or a fawn response where we fake because we don't cause issues. I am going to say to you, if you own a cunt, regardless of your gender, please don't fake it, because if I get him as the next person, It's a real problem now. But also for yourself, because I've met people who've been together in relationships for like 2 or 3 years, they faked it, didn't realise they were in a relationship, and I still fake it. And then to tell someone you've been faking it for 3 years, fucking hell, that destroys the mark in their relationship. And by the way, all genders fake. I also know somebody who has a penis, pretends to come, whether he likes or not, he's developed this as a skill, pisses a little bit, so there's some fluid. It's warm fluid. But if you're not consenting, you like to piss play. And by the way, with urine as well, I've got a massive writing on urine. I really had looked at by a fucking urologist, like I do check my facts, I really do, that's why. And we talk about being sterile. It is not. It is not. It is not sterile. Fucking hell, let's please just get these things right. So I think actually we should take a different approach. I think we should look for green flags. I don't think we should just be looking for negativity, we should find it anyway. We should be looking for somebody who does listen, who does communicate, who does offer to pay sometimes, who does, not always expect, who is kind to others, who has a pretty good reputation overall. Am I willing to meet someone who's had something dodgy against them or something to question? Yeah, yes, probably. And I want to make my own mind up, but not stupidly. I also think we tend to put ourselves in danger because we go into situations where we're in a private room, in a private situation with nobody else around to help us. I'm not saying you should be joking in a club, we're not all exhibitionists. Given my work now, I find it really hard to play anywhere publicly because I can end up going into a place and I'm like, fuck this time. I can't. If they're going to look at my cunt and see what I have for breakfast, we're not going to have the same relationship professionally afterwards. We're not. So, I can't do as much as I did, haven't been able to for the last 20 years, and that's a big influence. So I'm looking for people who, I've got someone at the moment, but I'm looking for people who he wants to sell me every so often. Not they want to come and sell me, but he really likes the idea of daddy's little girl being used by somebody else for a fiver or for whatever it is. That's fine by me. I'm going to be really turned on by that. I love that idea, but we really need to work out who those other people are a lot of the time. There's my client, no, that's not happening. Or there's a friend, that's not happening. Or I think Sean and I, we've met, I've come across you a few times on film and stuff. And David I've known for 20 years, Cosmic, who runs this place. He's a Marmite, you love or hate him, definitely one or the other, for most people. Go talk to him, you know what I mean. And he and I argue quite a lot about some things about the singer. He's very much, I can make all women orgasm and all command by hypnotism. I spoke to him, believe me, I don't have to tell the truth. I'm taking a piss out of him, we have a good relationship. But we don't always agree. I've definitely never played with him. I don't cross professional boundaries. Somebody who asks to cross a professional boundary, it's a red flag. So the green flag is they don't. So I think it's very much about looking for positivity about how they are and what they do. But Mary Angela, you said, believe. When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. That's one of the best things to have for any flagship situation because people do tell you, they even tell you up front. Come on, how many of you met somebody who said, I'm a fucking nightmare to be with, don't be with me, or I don't want a relationship, you won't convert me, or any of those things. You must have met people at some point like that. And often what we then do is say, I know, but I'll be different. You become that cracker. I'll make a difference here. I'm going to break you open. It'll be different. I did it with my husband. It ended up in divorce. At that time, because I was told he would never talk to someone. He won't want a relationship. He won't commit to anyone. I'll watch me. I said, oh, that was bad. So it's not a good idea always. We all make mistakes. I also think one of the green flags to look for really strongly is when somebody does do something wrong, how do they handle it? How do they approach it? What's their care for you after? What does it look like? Because we are all going to make mistakes. I don't think everyone should be hung on that mistake because things do go wrong. And we don't always hear when we're turned on. That's a really dangerous point, isn't it? You're really fucking turned on, and all of a sudden you said yes, come inside. Yeah, that's a bad. I had a client actually quite a few years ago, and I always have, if I talk about clients, I have their full consent and permission. I don't just do it randomly. Let me please point that out. And I put it all over FetLife because she had had sex with somebody. She demanded and written that it must be safe, there must be a condom, and at no point can we do anything else. He works in the NHS, he takes me to a doctor's office. You've got to go to the doctor's, trust me. They're fucking on the floor at the doctor's office. She says at one point, do anything you want to me. Does that supersede what's been written or not? Legally, it does. She gave him full consent to do anything he wants. What did he do? He stepped to slip the condom. He knew. He knew that that's not what she wanted. He knew because it's written. But the police, unfortunately, right or wrong, and again, I've got no big writing, again, I'm fucking fella, there's a big difference between justice, law, provable law, fact, perception, and what there are such big differences because you can try and say that that's not right. And then that's forgiveness. So it's always about, know yourself as well. Don't think, when I write that, this supersedes anything that we're about to do. Even if I say, fuck me, Dad, and come inside me, I do not mean it. It's a heat of the moment thing. What I mean is, don't take fucking condom. So it's all about that respect and care for others as well. Okay, thank you. Thank fuck I can count. And it's just that basic respect for other human beings. I think the biggest piece of advice I always give someone new is take your fucking time. You've got plenty of time, but we feel like we haven't. We feel like this is a missed opportunity. Like, oh, this is so exciting. So I come back and I do all these things, and we get that frenzy sometimes, right? Especially if we're quite new. And if we've got ADHD, we get that frenzy fairly often. Oh, I'm going to do all of this again. Or I forgot about that. I'm going to do that now. Because we get very, very hyper-focused. Take your time. Get to know someone. If somebody's about to do something to you, if you took that in a vanilla context, I want you to beat me up. Would you let anyone do it? Or you would beat someone up? You've got to remember the law in the UK and in the States and many other places, you cannot consent to violence against you. You both go to fucking jail for what you're about to do. And I think people don't understand that. I've got a bruise on my arm, like it's quite, you can sort of see it from the back. Fuck knows how I do it. It's such an ADHD thing. I'm always covered in bruises. And I go, how did I do that? Doing her. Do I play as well? Yes, but that's not from that. I don't know if I was pinned down there. I don't know. It could be. But in that moment, that's now more than a trifling or transient mark. If somebody did that to me, they'd break the law. Have any of you ever broken the law when it comes to sex? Who here has ever received or given a love bite? Even as a kid. That's enough to break the law. Now, you're not going to be arrested for that, you're not going to be prosecuted for that. I think it could be, because when they start looking, they know. We had something called the Spam case in the UK quite a few years ago. Group of gay men, having a fucking awesome time. We're talking about cock and balls and hammers and bits of wood and nails, right? We're talking about quite extreme stuff from a visual perspective. The police thought they found a snuff movie. So they spent $500,000 investigating like the team like everything else as well. So when it came to having a look at them, sort of kind of like here, actually, but this is the big one. Offences against a person in 1861. You cannot consent to your own assault. So you can't give consent to the shit that we do. Now we're all fighting that. There are plenty of us fighting illegally and we're involved in situations, I am, where we're always trying to lobby and do stuff, and a few of us are, but it's not getting anywhere yet. You can't leave a mark for a trifling or transient. Can you spank a child legally?
No.
Actually, you can. Ooh. It depends on the level of mark that you create and what you do. And it also depends on
Whether the child's yours.
Don't think of somebody else, it's actually really bad. I'm not advocating child, I'm not saying I'm advocating, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this fucking word is here. Anything more than something than transient. And that's part of the problem. And Brown and Span case, the judge, it just makes no difference. It really does. You just have to look for, you just can't. Now, the police are told very much now, because I've quite a few friends who work in the police, that look for consent. But what is consent? Can you consent to these things? Well, we're told here you can't consent, for a start. But also, is the consent coerced? Again, red flags. Yeah, I know, but if you were a good girl, you would. I can be a good girl and not want to do it. I'm a very bad girl and I still don't want to do it. Sometimes. And it's also important to turn around and say, okay, if you loved me, you would. Come on, who's heard that in a relationship at least once in a life? We get a lot, don't we? You and I have conversations about that sort of stuff, haven't we, anyway? But we get that sort of conversation a lot where that this is what women do, this is what men do, this is what the girls do, especially if you're new in the scene. That's one thing I hate, that is one thing I look for. Does age equal experience?
No.
No. But what I see a lot, and I'm always slated for it, I often get blocked for this sort of shit, fine by me. You know, you get someone who's 20 or 18 or 19 saying, I'm looking for an older man, which I fucking totally understand, good, have a great time, I don't give a shit. Like, I don't. Because they're experienced. Just because someone is 40, you can meet someone who's 22 and they've done 2 years and a 40-year-old's only done a year. Same with sex and drugs and rock and roll. You can meet someone who's been married to one person and been serially monogamized with them, not monogamous, but they've been married, and they've got more sex in their life than you have sleeping with 1,000 people, or less, because they would do it once every 10 years. And the longest I've come across in relationships is like forever, like 11, 12 years. We just make assumptions about these things. And that's the danger as well, the assumptions we make because we want it to be true. We're desperate for it to be exciting and fun. So we're our biggest red flag, I think. It's what we allow and what we look for. People will often show you who they are. So I just say to people, take the time, go a bit slower, see the person. Because people do show themselves in a few weeks. Because if you're always jumping into sex, drugs and rock and roll, you also become more defensive of that person because you don't want to make the main mistake a lot of the time. And that's a really big one. And we also go for names on the scene. You find if someone runs a lunch or runs a club, they're going to get a lot of fucking cock, cunt and arse whenever they want. Because they're seeing somebody who does and knows. And that's a fantasy as well. It just means they organise something else. So, again, it's people who are aware of their position, their power and their authority. That's one element. I get so many offers, especially from really young men, like 20, 18. What they really want from me is for me to teach them, and that's not what I'm interested in. I don't want to do that. What's in it for me? But I get a lot of offers, a shit ton of offers like that. But that doesn't take into account what I want. So again, the green flag is someone asking what I want and how it works. And reading my fucking cunting profile that says no one under the age of. And it's not that I don't like people. Sorry?
Don't read them. I do my profile, nobody under 25, and I get tons of chickens all up, and I think I'll cut off.
And that's not just about age or youngsters, it goes all ways in every way. I don't want this gender, I don't want this, or I don't want that. You don't owe anyone fancy ability or lust. Like, I really hate that as well. You should like everybody. Who else do you say that to? That's a really strange thing to say. Why do you say it on the scene? Because you do say it quite a lot. I think we're near enough done. So thank you for coming. I'm here every month. If ever you've got a question, and if you're on FetLife, send me a text or send me an email there, a DM. I'll get the language right in a minute. I give my number to everyone as well, so if you want my number, you can have it after as well. If you've got questions, ask me, because it's really important to me to share factual information, and I hope what I don't do is just give opinion. It needs research, it needs a little bit of backup. I don't really care about research. I think you're quite stuck in your opinion. Or I watched this thing the other day with this. It's really sad. You have these really staunch Christian parents, 4 of them, and these really liberal LGBTQI parents. And you have these 4 teenagers in the middle. And these people are just discrediting this 17-year-old, incredibly eloquent, awesome young woman. She was fucking brilliant. I loved her. Just the way she spoke, because she was brought up by 2 dads. And she was saying, I'm adjusted, I'm good, I fucking love my life. And she was so amazing. But then you've got these cunts telling her that she had no idea. And she missed out on it. So then she's indoctrinated, but then so are you, because that's your opinion. There are the facts, and she's trying to show the facts. She's trying to say that her dad's looked up how to do it with a girl in puberty, how to do this, how to do that. Which is more than a parent does. If they're fucking heterosexual and wanting to have a child, it's all a shock. You only see 9 months, you give birth, and everything's a shock. Whereas these dads did all this fucking amazing research and really cared about their kids. God, I would have them as my parents any day. They looked amazing. But how much hurt they just caused her. When she ran off, she did end up sobbing. They're causing her more damage than her dad was ever done in a million years. So it's the power of words and things as well. And for me, it's education. So feel free if you want to DM me or anything. You're always welcome. And if you want a CPD, let me know. Thank you very much for your time.